Hey everyone, good morning. Welcome to the Daily Drop-In Morning Show with the Teach Better team. It is Monday, January 17th, and we have a lot in store. Obviously, we are too celebrating MLK Day. We have a new theme this week. We have some other holidays and goofy celebrations. I know many of our community are actually not in school today. They're celebrating that we have a holiday. So we hope that you are home in your pajamas sipping on your coffee rather than worrying too much about heading to school. But regardless, we are really excited to be here with you this morning. Looks like we're having a little bit of problems on our Twitter feed. So if you are watching this over on Twitter, we would love to have you help us out by sharing that to your network, to your community. But either way, let's get started and we'll be right back. Morning, everyone. Katie Miglin in the house. Why are you awake? Why are you live with us? What is going on?
I don't know. That's a great question.
I know.
Jeff's not available, so here I am.
I think it's so sweet because I was texting with Jeff this morning. Sorry, I'm trying to share this on Twitter and I'm multitasking. I was texting with Jeff this morning. He texted me at like 5 a.m. Central Time. And he's like, giving me his play-by-play of his morning. And then you show up. And I just want you to know, I think it's so sweet that your description is, oh, Jeff was unavailable. Guys, Jeff is having internet problems. He's home. He's awake. He might even be watching us live. But he decided that it was too early for him. And so he decided not to come on the show. Just saying.
Yeah, I think it's an upgrade, honestly, for you, Ray.
It is an upgrade. And I am very, very, very glad that you're here. I do want to make fun of Jeff just, for a moment in time to make fun of the fact that he doesn't have internet. Apparently they got 100 million inches of snow in Ohio. So shout out to those of you who may not have gone outside yet. There was a lot of snow that hit the U.S., especially today. So please go double check that you are safe and able to get to your car or whatever you might need today. And of course, if you have any problems that we can help with here on the Teach Better team, just direct message us. We know that extreme weather is very challenging. So I'm sorry for those of you who may be battling the snow this morning. Katie, how are you? How's your morning been? Ooh, Katie, you're frozen.
It's been on like 45 minutes, so pretty good so far.
No,
Yes.
you're here. We got you. We're a little glitchy this morning.
We are super glitchy. I blame Jeff.
It is Jeff's fault for sure.
It is. Are we delayed too? Because I feel like this is a 5-second delayed conversation.
No, we're gonna make this better. Katie, tell me about your weekend. How's life?
My weekend was super duper. We had some friends over and did a little girl spa thing. So we did some pedicures and some facials. I think my 3-year-old's traumatized. She just kept saying all day yesterday, which was the day after, I don't want to do a facial ever. No more of that. She was not a fan. Not a fan. So yeah, but it was good. How was your weekend?
What's not to be a fan of a facial? You just put gooey stuff on your face and then you're done.
I think she's got sensitive skin, so she might have started getting like a burning feeling. And so when we tried to take it off, in her mind, like us taking it off was making it worse rather than better. So I feel like the whole event was just too much for 3-year-olds. So
A lot of educators don't have schools today. They might choose to use a facial, to relax for the day, maybe do a little spa day at home by themselves or with their family. I don't want to discourage that. I guess if you're 3, no facials to, moving forward. That's fine.
Well, the 6 and the 8-year-old, big fans. They really enjoyed it. My 6-year-old had one that looked like a snowman face. But, like, it's made for an adult, so it was like a droopy snowman face on her because she's littler. So, like, the nose was, like, coming across here, and it looked like she had, like, a mustache and, like, a little goatee. It was really kinda comical, so I might have a picture of it.
That's so
Funny.
cute. I
That's
love
funny.
that. See, that's a fun way to spend a
How
weekend,
was
right?
yours?
Family time. My
Yep.
weekend
Oh,
was
here we
good.
go.
I actually also had, oh my gosh, that's so funny. I love that. So fun. I
Mm.
also had some family time, which was awesome. My sister, which I know I've mentioned on the show numerous times, my sister is still in town until they head back to Scotland. And they are heading back in just a few days. So we are celebrating their last final day in the States. And then we actually get to see them again sooner rather than later. We get to see them in May coming up. So not too bad. I'm excited
Ooh.
to have had this time with them. And then when they head back, it'll be nice in May to hopefully see them soon because it had been 12 months this trip. So it's been a good experience so far, and happy to be kicking off the week with all of our Teach Better community getting ready for another great week in schools, especially for some people shortened week. So but are all schools off today? That's the thing that I was trying to look up this morning. I'm hoping all schools are off, but I don't know. I was reading about it this morning for MLK Day.
I don't know, honestly. Is it one of those holidays that you can like vote on and some do and some don't?
I really hope not. I had I know that we're going to get into some good news and some holidays here in a minute, but I did look up some frequently asked questions about Martin Luther King Day. And one of them is Martin Luther King Day a federal holiday? And this says, no, it's not. Oh, wait. Better yet, it says, not only is Martin Luther King Jr. Day a federal holiday, but it's also the first holiday honoring an African American. So if it's a federal holiday, then there would be no school today, right? For everyone, correct?
I think so, yeah. I think that's how that works.
Good. So everybody is sleeping
Yeah.
in, hopefully this morning, and I do appreciate those of you that are here live with us, participate in the comments. But that's great. I'm glad to hear that. So we do have teachers celebrating a shortened week in some regard today in our schools in the U.S. especially. So that's good. That's awesome to know.
I am just grateful that people have the break, the extra day, the day to just relax. Hopefully, people are just kind of ignoring email, resetting, just enjoying the time without a bell schedule, without people checking in on them. Just kind of chill all day.
No, yeah, that's good. Stay in your pajamas as long as possible. Get some good coffee in you. Do a spa day with your children. I mean, to me, this is going to be a great Monday. I actually was reading also. I know we're going to get into some good news stories, but I was looking at like how to observe Martin Luther King Day, King
Hmm.
Jr. Day, and there are 3 recommendations. A lot of them focus on understanding what today is all about, which I thought was obviously a really important tip for our families.
Yes.
And so, regardless of what your plans are today, take a few minutes, explore the history of why today is so important. And I was looking there. There are so many websites of stories that are for all different ages, depending on the type of family environment that you have, to kind of explore the importance of today and make sure you're well educated on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. This is a big day in history, and we like to celebrate all the things going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Katie, let's get into our good news stories because, yes, it is MLK Day, but we also have some things that we wanted to highlight as well on our
Mhm.
holiday list. And to be honest, I couldn't choose our good news article. I have like 14. So, I'm just going to click
Sounds
this
good.
transition here. We got to figure out where we're going from here.
Okay.
Good morning. Good morning. Shout out to those of you who are messaging me and letting us know that it's a non-school day and wondering why we are live for Daily Drop-In. Friends, we went live on Christmas Eve. We were live on New Year's Eve. We never canceled the show. You know that we're here Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern. Even on days that you may not be heading into school, you can start your mornings with us. And we might be glitchy this morning. We might be sleepy this morning. We might be preparing for our spa day this morning, but either way, we are here. So thank you for those of you that are not only up and participating live with us, but even if you're catching this after the fact, maybe you chose to sleep in and didn't set your alarm too early. We are thrilled that you are choosing to include us in your day. I have some good news articles for us, Katie, but I will say
Ooh.
there was 2 good news articles, and one of them was more of like a public service announcement that I just felt weird not talking about because I don't know,
Okay.
it seemed important. And then the other one was just kind of like a feel good story. So which do you want to start with?
I think the PSA. I think let's start there.
I think so too. And I know that we have holidays, but maybe we'll do this one and then we'll go holidays and then we'll go into some other good news. Here's what I feel like I
Sure.
just missed this. So I felt like it was important for us to discuss. I do feel like I stay up to date, pretty up to date on the news as often as I can. And I did not catch this until this morning. So the news article says that home COVID tests will be free, covered by most insurance providers starting on Saturday, which was the 15th that just occurred. So for those of you who may not have heard this announcement, um, there was some discussion around how starting on Saturday 15th, as a part of a new White House order to improve testing, that you can get reimbursed for 8 COVID tests a month in your family via this new movement. So it kind of goes into how to claim the money and what insurance providers are included. I won't read this whole list for those of you who maybe already knew this or have already double checked with your insurance, but maybe just as a PSA, obviously we need to continue to be as safe as humanly possible. Every state is handling COVID differently. We know every community is handling COVID differently. But if you are somebody who is seeking tests and obviously wanting to compensate for that cost, because we know that can absolutely add up, please check with your insurance providers, because it seems as though following this weekend, you might have some opportunity to be reimbursed for that cost via this new White House agreement. So were you aware of this, Katie? Did I just miss this?
No, I had no idea, but where is that like, what are you looking at so that if people wanna kinda look into more information, they can seek it out?
Yeah, so the article that I specifically saw, because I usually go to the Good News Network,
Yeah.
goodnewsnetwork.org is what I was reading. However, I really would encourage you all to go to a more reliable news source. The Good News Network obviously is a feel-good website, but I really think that this is an important element to maybe research a little bit, get some
Yeah.
good facts. I know we have some people in the comments who are saying good morning. Let us know if you have heard of this before. We'd love to get some details, but I would suggest that those of you looking into it, Google free COVID tests. It looks like it is provided by your insurance provider, but it is something that just went into power on Saturday, January 15th. So it should be a recent
That's
news article
awesome.
that comes up.
Yeah, I think that's awesome because I think those are pretty expensive. We haven't luckily, have not had to purchase any, and I know they've been sold out by us, but that is a nice feature because it is, like, peace of mind just knowing, so that's cool. I hope that's a reliable source.
Yes, I hope so too. And I will say, I know that COVID tests have been tricky to get a hold of. Like that, I know has been a stressor. I know a lot of educators have been fortunate enough to have COVID testing in their buildings. So shout out to schools that are doing so much to just trying to make our community safe. There's been a lot of, layers to obviously this global pandemic that we are entering into 2 years doing that. But it looks like Brienne in the comments is posting also a CNN link as well to help clarify. So if you are looking for a reliable source, CNN might be a good stop for you. I will say, Katie, it's one thing to not be able to get access to testing. I know that's a frustrating hurdle that we're getting over. But for those people who may need to have access to testing and can find it but can't afford the cost, I'm thrilled that we are
Yeah.
able to do something to support that. That's a big deal.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
definitely go check that out. Brienne, thank you for posting that CNN article. And again, I don't know all the details, but definitely worth checking with your insurance provider
Mhm.
to compensate for that cost of making sure that you are going into our community safe and as safe as humanly possible. So we appreciate all of you doing your part to combat COVID-19. For holidays today, there are a lot. And obviously, Martin Luther King Jr. Day is the big one. So if
Yeah.
you have not educated yourself on all the moving pieces of that very important holiday in history, please feel free to take that on this morning. But we also have some other holidays that I didn't realize fell on the same day. Like, for example, Michelle Obama's birthday is today. That's cool.
Yes.
I'm a fan of that. We also
It is
have
nice.
Blue Monday, which I was reading about, wanting to know why people might feel blue on Mondays. This is an awareness to try and spread love for Mondays that I think is really funny. This one I actually really enjoyed, and it's something that I hope our community takes on. Brew Monday, which I didn't know what that meant. It said, time to
Right.
schedule a meeting with someone who finds this cold and gray winter day an obstacle. So kind of like checking in with people that you care about to make sure that they're doing well this morning. I like that.
So not I thought you said brew, like coffee
Yes,
brew. You said brew.
I no, Brew Monday on the third Monday of January every year, January 17th this year, is a time to schedule an online, phone, or in person meeting with someone who may have otherwise found a cold, gray winter's day an almost unsurmountable obstacle. The day was brought to you by the international charity called Samaritans, which does not endorse any religious faith but wanted to spread cheer across the US.
Hey, cheers to Brew Monday.
Yeah, cheers. I think I probably would have texted you or like our friend group to be like, "Hey, just checking in. Are you alive on this cold Monday?" So, I mean, this is me doing that. Does it count?
Yeah, I think so. This was like a scheduled meeting, kind of. We can ignore that Jeff's internet went out and that this was totally planned and this was part of our plans the whole time.
Yeah, so for those of you who are looking for a little challenge today that won't take too much energy at all, check in with somebody on this cold Monday and make someone's day today. I like that a bunch. It's also ditch New Year's resolution day. Is this typically where people give up on their New Year's resolution 17 days in?
I mean, that makes sense. It's like, halfway through the month. And remember, there was a brain break. Jeff and I went round and round about New Year's resolutions and whether or not they're worthwhile. But I mean, that kind of makes sense because I feel like at this point, people are probably either they're like struggling and they're maybe like they've given up on a couple days. And by this point, they're like, forget it. I'm out. I'm not doing it anymore. So,
I don't know that we
I mean,
can condone that though. Are we condoning that behavior?
that's the thing. I don't, yeah, why are we celebrating that?
I don't know. This says grab some ice cream, skip the workout, and spend more time on your phone.
That's funny.
Guys, I don't know that we can support celebrating that holiday. If you said New Year's resolution, our motto here on the Teach Better team is a little bit better, better today, better tomorrow. And so we encourage you to not ditch your New Year's resolution. Whatever your goal was, let us know. A little bit better means that you're working towards that resolution. The other holiday that's today that I'm a little bummed about, as my dogs are wrestling on the floor, because, why not? We're live on camera. It's Elementary
Right.
School Teacher Day.
Hey, I
I
can get
know,
behind that.
but it's on a non-school day, and I think there was another holiday in December that was like celebrating Teachers Day, and it also was on a weekend. So what's the deal, guys? What's the deal?
Well, okay, let's be honest here. If you want to feel really appreciated and special, do you want to get up and get yourself ready? Or would you rather have like a slow morning drinking coffee, not 30 people asking you a million questions? Like, I mean, I get the idea that like, yeah, being in your element, let's celebrate being in your element, but I think it's a true celebration that you get to have the day to kind of just relax.
Yeah, Brienne in the comments is agreeing with you. She says, I just want to celebrate in my pajamas with coffee. I guess that is what we're all getting today. So shout out to elementary school teachers that are living life. This is your holiday. This is your day. We're here to celebrate it for you. I think elementary school teachers are phenomenal. So I'm all about celebrating them. Sign me up.
I completely agree. They're hold a special place in heaven. I've decided. I teach middle school. I know people think I'm crazy, but elementary teachers, man, they're amazing. They're amazing. That's all I can say.
Love it, love it.
Mhm.
There are a lot of comments coming in about how people are celebrating. I do want to give a shout out to Elijah, who says he's celebrating today by beginning by reading Carly Spina's new book. Carly Spina, a member of our Teach Better community and on the show later this week, just published a book, and we always love supporting our Teach Better family that chooses to share their voice in a number of different ways in our community. Carly Spina's book, I'm sure, will come up later this week as she's live with us, I think on Thursday. So
Yeah.
definitely mark that down on your calendar. That'll be super fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay. Another good news article, Katie, and this one actually I think is a cool, good news article, but I'm glad we did that PSA earlier. This says a man who tells the Queen he engineers solar panels is stunned when she orders some to be installed in her castle. So this is about a man who said that he had a 20-second conversation with the Queen at one point within the last few years. And as they had this conversation, she asked him what he did. And he said that he was an installer of solar panels, and his company that he was a part of actually had a mission to put more solar energy into their community. So, as he was responding to that, he got a note from the palace a few months later that they too wanted to install solar panels. So, this guy just had an incredible experience, not only meeting the Queen, but also being a part of the solution and getting good energy into our communities, including where the Queen lives. Very cool. I like that.
Yeah, could you imagine, like, you just have, like, a quick conversation, don't think probably much of it, and then it's like, "Oh, we're installing these in the castle." Like, in the castle, that's not just, like, someone's really large house. Like, that's a huge deal.
Well, I feel like it's one of those reminders that you never know you never know what can come of a conversation, right? So a
Like,
quick 20-second conversation with the Queen, in my mind, I guess I would assume this is a moment for me. She doesn't really necessarily care much
oh,
about that she's talking to me, but I think it's great that I'm talking to her. The fact that there was a positive element of that is very cool.
yeah. I think it's cool that the queen is being so trendy and putting in solar panels.
Come on, so trendy, of course. I do want to know if anybody's ever had a conversation like that. Like, if you could take a moment and think back where you thought you were having a conversation that maybe wasn't that substantial, and then later on it turns out to have been like a huge moment in your history of, either making you or having a very, very cool experience that you didn't expect. I'm sure that there are more of those conversations than I even am aware of.
Okay,
Like,
we had one.
you and I?
Yes. You came to me, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago, and you had, like, a paper in your hand, like a research paper in your hand, and you literally walked in and you're like, "Explain to me how I would make this work." And it was, the grid method. And I very quickly was like, "I don't think it's gonna work," and I, like, dismissed you, and then you started doing it, and the rest is history. Because
That
I didn't even look at it. Do you remember that conversation? It was so short.
I don't know this at all. I brought to you like information on the grid method because when I learned about the grid method, I didn't think it was going to work either. So
Right.
I probably came to you to be like, I can't figure this out. I don't
Yes,
think this is actually a solution. Tell me what you think, and then you
yes.
dismissed it too.
Yes, we both did because you were like, "I'm interested in this, but I don't get I don't get how it will work." And I didn't take enough time to look at it, but I was like, "Yeah, no, I trust you. Like, I don't think it's gonna work either." And then it was like a month later you were doing it, and then it was like even like a month or 2 later, you were like hanging out with Jeff and Chad. And I was like, "What the heck happened? We just had a 20-second conversation." So look at that. I don't know what you handed me. All I remember it was like a maybe Chad would remember, but it was like something you had found, but it was not what we have now. Like, it was not at all what we have available to people now, but it was something like the only thing I can compare it to, it looked like a research paper. It was like very text heavy. And I was
Yeah.
like, "No, I'm not reading this."
You know what, though? I will say back in the day, Chad was featured in news articles all the time for the grid method. So I wondered if I like printed a
Exactly.
news article to be like, here, read this. Let me know what you think.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you know
So
what? Like I know that those conversations occur and to me, like you and I on the team, we get to speak to people all the time. So there
mhm,
are moments that I like hop on a call with somebody and I have no idea that they're going to become like this lifelong advocate of Teach Better or a great friend or somebody that I work on a
mhm.
project with. Like those moments happen, I guess, quite frequently. I just don't think about them as this article is such a cool experience for somebody. I guess we do get to have those all the time.
Yeah.
Um, But I'd love to hear people's stories if they feel like they had one of those moments that they walked in and didn't expect to have something significant occur in their lives and then something big happen. That's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that is cool. Yeah.
I do know you and I have had numerous conversations where I've brought a stupid idea to you and you've been okay with it.
I mean, probably, yeah, sure, I believe that. Like your
Like
chalk wall?
Like the one, well, okay, so my chalk wall was one. I brought you a research paper on the grid method, apparently. I came to you one time and said, hey, I want to go to Atlanta and I need an adult with me. Can you go with me? Like these are all things that I don't know why you were my go-to person to bring stupid ideas to.
And the better question is, why did I consistently say yes? Like, did I just turn into your yes man? Because yes, I do remember the Atlanta thing. And think about like how, I mean, we barely knew each other when we went on that trip together and all the people we've met, all the connections we've made. Like that was
What
amazing.
year would that have been? 2018, I think. Because we went
Yes. I
2018, 2019, not 2020, not 2021.
right. So it was 2018 because I was pregnant with our youngest. Mhm.
Yes, and nobody knew, but I got to know, guys. It was so cool because Katie and I weren't even friends really. We were just like colleagues working together, and she
Mhm.
had to tell me that she was pregnant because we were going on a trip together. It was really
Yeah, like
cool
you knew before my family.
because I'm like a big deal.
Yeah, that was like an experience for the books. And then we were crazy enough to do it again, but with like way more people.
Yes.
And yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
I just want to give a shout out for those of you who either haven't brought a stupid idea to a colleague, lesson learned, go do it.
Yep.
Or for those of you who have never taken a trip with students,
Oh
you
my
need
God.
to. Like that is a moment in like the books for teachers. I feel like there's some natural moments that when you go through these in your career, you're like, yep, nice job. You're getting closer to people like really, like you're really a teacher now that you've had that moment. Like, you know, those milestones, like your first really tough conversation with a parent, it's like, okay, afterwards, yep, this is a kind of a part of our job. Or there's like those teacher checkpoints. One, I think every teacher should be required to travel with students at least one time in their career.
Yeah, like it's something that it was never on my radar. Like when I'm going to be a teacher, I'm going to go on a trip and then going, I'm like, oh, everyone has to experience this because you see kids like in a different light. They get to see you in a different light. Like you hold a different, role in their life. I just think it's so fun. It was great. I was so glad you came to me and I was your yes man.
I have had many moments in life where I have laughed uncontrollably, but I have laughed. I've never laughed harder than I laughed during that trip, that 2018 trip. I literally, friends, and I say this with love, and you can know my secrets. I was laughing so hard, I could have peed my pants. It was so funny.
It was definitely my face is sore from
Yeah,
laughing so hard kind of
yeah.
moment. Mhm.
So
Yeah,
fun.
that was a good time. Thanks for asking this stupid question. I'm glad I said
Yeah.
yeah.
That was good. Brianne's in the comments saying, I met the Teach Better team at a conference for gifted students, and Tiff, shout out to Tiffany Ott, handed me a green stress ball with the team logo. I started doing Mastery Chat after Googling the team. See, like that's an unexpected moment where one
Yeah.
interaction like led to something else. Now Brianne is on our Teach Better team. She was a significant leader up until recently when we brought her on the team, but a significant leader in our ambassador program. I mean, Bree has been around for a long time, but it all started from meeting a teacher at a conference. That's crazy.
That is crazy. Yeah, because how many conferences do you go to and you get like, swag or random stuff and you don't even like think anything of it? It's like, oh, I have this new pen. That's it.
Right. And how often do you look at that new pen and say, oh, these are going to turn into my best friends and I'm going to go work for their team? Like,
Right. Never.
definitely different.
Mm-mm.
No, I always I like, reflecting on that, like how conversations can turn into so much more. And yeah, I guess you and I have had some interesting conversations that have definitely turned into a little bit more, but that's funny. See, you never know you're gonna meet. That's cool.
Yeah.
Trying
Yeah.
to think of some other ones. Like I mean, honestly, so I just had a conversation with Marie, who I don't think is live with us now. Marie's an ambassador in our community, in the Teach Better community.
Mhm.
And her conversation recently, it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago, really did change how I looked at our Teach Better content. She's all focused on adaptability, access for all. And I know that
Mm.
conversation I walked into just to catch up with Marie. And she actually really challenged my thinking, and so I appreciate, like, that was a great conversation I had recently. I
I
guess there are
do
more of those moments.
I do appreciate a conversation where you go in and you get something out of it that you never expected. Although there are those moments where I was like, like I know like I've had these at work where you go to a meeting and you're like, okay, this is gonna be a quick meeting. And then you walk out and you're like, and you have 800 things you want to do or change or I think it's those are fun conversations and they spark so much more, but sometimes it's like, man, I would have been really okay with the surface level conversation right now because I that's a lot to take on, but I think
Well,
it's always fun.
think about that. I know we're getting really off topic, but think about that. You recently, I want to say, was it last spring? I cannot believe it was that long ago. It was last spring, and you were going to a math summit, a math conference. And
Yes.
I didn't go because I wasn't required to be there. And you were like, oh, I really don't want to go. And I'm not saying that you weren't unwilling to go, but like it was a day away from school. You had to write sub plans.
And
It
it
was
was
a
like it was in May. Like, it was, like, literally we had 2 weeks left, and I was like, "Really, what do we need right now?" Like, I just need survival. Yes, I
yes.
totally remember being bitter about it.
But then you came back. I think I talked to you later that day or later that afternoon, and you were like, my life has changed. That was the coolest thing.
Yes.
And that was a professional development experience that you didn't expect to take anything away from.
Yes, and honestly, it has, like, totally changed my teaching this year, and I feel like in some ways like a new teacher. I know, like, a couple of my teammates are like, you're, like, back to where you're, like, every night you wanna create something new and creative," and it's totally was sparked by that summit because yeah, we had professional development, and it was required for our department, and so I went begrudgingly and I was not happy about it. But then we've had trainings every month since, and it's been so good. Like it's been so good for my teaching and just to kind of refuel. But yeah, it was totally unexpected. I thought it would be just like a day, like professional development sometimes is just great in the moment, but it's like, meh, take it or leave it. But then this was totally changing. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
No.
you're so right. And those things are so fun because when they're unexpected, it adds so much more. It's like, "Oh, this was way cooler and better than I ever would have expected." And so I think it adds that, like, surprise element too,
Mhm.
versus when you go in and you're like, "I'm gonna get a ton out of this," and then it just meets those expectations. Like, anything that can exceed your expectations is always great. My mom actually has this theory. I know this is, like, way off topic, but my mom has this theory when you have the like negative feelings or you have the like very small expectations, that's when things end up surprising you. So I can remember being a kid and being like, oh, I really don't want to go to this party, none of my friends are going to be there. And she was almost always right. I would come home and I'd be like, that was so fun. And so now, even as an adult, I call her and I'm like, Mom, I have this thing I really don't want to go to. And she's like, well, the theory that whenever you don't expect it to be great, it's going to be awesome. And so I try to like hold that where I'm like, okay, fine, it's going to be great.
No, I like that. It's a good reminder. And I mean, it's not about setting low expectations, but really being
No.
open minded. Like, it's not,
Yeah.
I really like that concept of being open minded to new ideas, open minded to conversations, not
Yep.
necessarily expecting anything out of it, but who knows? I mean,
Yep.
truly, I guess as we've gotten into this conversation, the way I met Jeff Gargis was randomly on Twitter. The way that I met Dave Burgess was randomly on Twitter through conversations that you don't think are going to turn into anything. They end up being great friends. I mean, geez, Jillian is in the comments now. I think Jillian has been a part of that same experience of, Jillian, I met her because she interviewed for a role on the Teach Better team, which ended up not being the right fit, but she ended up being somebody who drastically changed my view of how to see things in a positive light. Jillian was somebody that I got off the phone with. I will always remember that conversation. I was driving from Bloomington to Ottawa and I was on the phone with her and I was like, this woman is the most cheery, positive, like ball of energy. And obviously now she's a huge member of the Teach Better family. She is
Mhm.
just like a great friend. I just think it's so funny how sometimes conversations that you don't think are going to turn into anything end up turning into just incredible connections or moments. So it's kind of a fun walk down memory lane. I like that.
Yeah. And I think it's a good reminder too. Like all it takes is one like smile or one hello or, like, I mean, just one kind of initiation, then it could turn into something, it could not, but you'll never know until you try.
I do appreciate that you were the person I went to with my dumb ideas. Now that we've gone through this conversation, I will tell you, I really do appreciate that you said yes to a lot of really, really dumb things. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I don't know. There have been times where I'm like, dang it, she's so right. This is going to be a good idea. But right now I'm kind of annoyed with her, her dumb idea.
If it helps, you can always, like, you could have said no because who would have known? Now you're stuck. Now I only ask you to do dumb things when we're on camera together so people are watching.
That's true. Now you've got me. You've got me all figured out. Dang. Man.
Sorry. I know.
It's okay.
Hey, we do have a theme this week. We should probably get into that.
Yeah, otherwise Jeff will never let me take over again.
Oh, yeah, because I'm sure he's so upset that he's not live right now.
Like, he probably just went back to bed. He's probably just sleeping.
Okay,
No
I
one
will say,
sleep.
I would love to pretend that he is sleeping because that would make this show funnier, but I will let you know that I am 99% confident he is shoveling his driveway to help his wife get to work. I feel very confident in that.
That's probably true. You're right. You're right. He's a good person.
Yeah. Here's your reminder that y'all should not go shovel the snow. Stay warm in your home with your cup of coffee, and we'll be right back. All right, friends, welcome back to the Daily Drop-In Morning Show with the Teach Better team. We have had a slow start, a casual conversation this morning. We are hoping that most of you are not going into school today and instead is celebrating MLK Day. And then we also hope that you are still in your pajamas sipping on your coffee. Thank you for being here bright and early live with us as we stream on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. But also, even if you're catching this after the fact, we appreciate that you are subscribed, hopefully rating and reviewing Teach Better Talk Podcast. If you could take 2 seconds and rate and review Teach Better Talk Podcast, we would so appreciate that. Katie, we do have a theme this week, and we also have had a lot of questions in our Facebook group that I thought we could kind of tag team. Which do you want to begin with?
Let's start with the theme. Let's get this ball rolling here.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Our theme this week is about involving students in the design process. And when we wrote this, we really wanted to keep it broad. I think it's an important reminder, if seemingly randomly, not sparked by anything specific, to just ask our community to reflect on if they are currently trying to brainstorm or overcome something that maybe their students can be a part of helping to find that solution. Can you tell me a little bit about how you involve your students in problem solving in your classroom?
Yeah, I mean, I teach middle school, so we do it all day. I feel like I constantly say, okay, what's your plan? Okay, figure it out. Okay, let me know how I can help with that. Like that's just those 3 phrases I say all day. But yeah, I mean, it can even be as specific as like letting them choose how they're going to show their mastery, or letting them choose the path they're going to take for learning, or, there's like so many avenues you can take for letting kids feel like they have a choice. And I feel, like I said, I have a 6-year-old, and I feel like it's even important at a young age to let them have a little bit of control, because they don't, in so many aspects of their life, they have no control. And right, I'm a huge control freak. And so letting some of that go and letting them figure it out. I mean, we do it like as small as like your pencil is out of lead. Okay, well, who are you going to ask for lead? Or are you going to borrow a pencil from the board? Or what's your plan to figure that piece out? And, just continuing to support them when they make those choices. And, in the moments where they don't make great choices, it's a learning experience, and not getting too upset on you made a bad choice. It's okay, well, maybe here's how we could fix that in the future.
I do like that in your example this morning, you're looking at involving students in the design process on a in the moment basis, and also on a structural basis for how you might pursue a more long-term dilemma, like designing a unit or designing lessons or designing a physical space. Those are all really big ideas, but involving students in the problem solving process in the moment when they are struggling with the pencil or something else is a whole nother idea on how you can
Mhm.
ensure that students are involved and invested in all the choices that they have, which I think is really cool.
Well, I think it's important too, like, so I teach one section of writing,
Mhm.
and, something that had, kind of evolved over time was letting them pick their topics. I think for so long, I and many others felt like they needed structure. Well, what if they wanna research this topic, or what if, and I've completely let go of that. I One of our units we do is we write a blog, and I literally let them pick anything under the sun. I'm like, "You just have to be able to find research." And I will never forget, first quarter this year, I had a student, he wanted to research, like, this cartoon character from, like, a show, and I was like, well, just to remind you, this is like has to have a nonfiction element, and you're writing about like a cartoon character. So I was like, pursue it, but let me know if you want to figure something out. And in my head, I was like, he's going to be coming back in 2 days. He won't have any research. Oh my gosh, he wrote like the best blog, and he's resistant to work. He's a kid in other classes that doesn't necessarily find joy in school. But because I let him research this cartoon character, and there are a ton of places to find, like, there was like tons of nerdy websites that provided like the background of this cartoon character. And I literally like looked at him after a couple weeks. I was like, wait, are you still researching that cartoon character? Like, he's not even a real person. He's like, yeah, I know. I found a ton of information about him. I'm like, and it's just like those types of moments where you're like, man, just let them pick, because it was so fun to like see him get excited. And we have those moments all the time, but just letting the kids take the reins, it ends up being better in the long run.
Well, I think a big suggestion that I know is going to come up this week is really the structure, right? You've created a structure where they can research
Yeah.
anything. You've given them the infrastructure, the parameters to
Yep.
work within a certain space. It's not just open completely willy-nilly, but they have,
Mhm.
things that they're specifically striving to look for, and then they have freedom to work within that space. And so I think that's
Mhm.
really an important element that is going to come up throughout the week, is identifying how you let the students get involved and really be invested in the choices and decisions that they make. And yet, as a teacher, ensuring that you're still working towards the same end result that you're striving to get. It sounds like that little bit of structure really allows the student to say, okay, how do I want to tackle this? And it had a really great
Mhm.
turnout.
Yeah, because that's the thing, you have to still, like, kinda set some boundaries, because you have to have a similar goal for every student. You have to, whether you're reaching a standard, or whether you have to reach whatever benchmarks, you do have to kinda have some of that structure. So I think that is important. I'm excited to hear some of the speakers this week to kinda talk about that, because that is kinda step 1. But then once you kind of feel like, "My structure is good," letting them go, I think is so, it's just so fun and so rewarding.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We do have somebody in the comments here saying finding balance between structure and student
Mhm.
freedom to choose their method to learn and design is a challenge for me. And I totally agree. I think it took me a few times to try a lesson that I thought was structured enough and it wasn't, and tweak and learn from those mistakes. I think it's a balance of two things. One is not feeling shame when that happens, being able to just
Right.
reflect and tweak. I mean, that's a part of just being a strong educator, is saying, okay, this wasn't as structured enough. Can I do anything about it? For me,
Mhm.
Katie, though, I used to cheat all the time, and I used to use the grid method to help me help the student structure an activity. So I don't know if you remember, and this was years ago, but the first year I ever did the Lego project with my
Mhm.
students, where they were building a life-size Lego suit using geometry skills. And each class was doing this, but to be honest, I had no idea how to guide them through this experiment. There was a lot of moving pieces, there was a lot of things that they needed to learn mathematically, but also a lot that they had some freedom to create. And
Mhm.
so in the comments, just as an example, I ended up making a grid that had a lot of pieces missing, but I actually brought it to the students with those pieces missing, and they helped me fill in the topic. So for
Mhm.
example, when I structure my grids, I won't get into too much of this, but when I structure my grids, every box on the grid, for those of you who are familiar, has three things in it. It introduces a new topic, it practices that topic, and then it evaluates if the student understood the topic before moving forward. And so for me, when I built this grid that really wasn't complete yet, the topics that I wanted them to learn were in the grid, but how
Yeah.
they practiced it was really open-ended. And then how they proved to me they understood it was super open-ended.
Mhm.
So in that grid specifically, they were working in small groups rather than on their own individually because they were building this construction component. And there was so much collaboration that the students were able to have on saying, okay, I now know what circumference is. How does that
Mhm.
apply to my specific construction of this body part that I'm going to build in the classroom? So sometimes the structure you're looking for can be something like the grid method, who at least provides you checkpoints, classroom
Yeah.
management supports, like stuff like that. But then you can leave elements unfinished for your students to be a part of.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's cool because it allows them to show their own mastery too. So, if there was a student who maybe or a group in your situation that didn't show exactly what you were looking for, then you could either ask for more or then you knew maybe they didn't have full mastery. So, I love that. I also am a firm believer, right? This is kind of related, but we had a administrator years ago, Laura O'Donnell, and she believed, yeah, I love Laura. She believed that like trying something new one day is never going to harm a child in the long run. And I really try, like even my student teachers, when I've had them, I try really hard to kind of stick to that. Like if you want to try something and it doesn't go well, that's okay. Like it's okay to try it again the next day or to tweak it. And in your situation, you weren't really, you wanted them to have some control. And so it's like, try it and see what happens and then reflect and either pick up the pieces, figure it out and change, or like pat yourself on the back. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I love her when Laura, anytime she'd be reflecting with you, she'd be like, did you harm any students? And you'd be like, no, of course not. She'd be like, cool, so you're fine. Like
yeah,
their mindset
exactly.
was always like, good, so let's just reflect and fix it. And sometimes the process
Mhm.
of fixing it was the next day mini lesson saying, hey, as a community, let's reflect on what didn't work and identify what needs to change versus the teacher doing that for the students. So that's so funny.
Mhm. Yeah.
I had a mentor named Jill Burrows, who I know you know very well as well. And
Mhm.
she constantly was like, I think we need a redo day tomorrow. She used to call it a redo day all the time. And she was like, you're allowed to have a redo day as often as you need it. And so when something doesn't go right, don't worry, tomorrow's a redo day. It's totally fine.
I love that, but it's also such a good mindset to model for the students. The idea that they then get a redo as well. I think that's awesome, because it is true. Like there are days that things don't go as you had hoped, and that's okay. You just do it again.
I totally agree. Okay, wait. It's interesting, Katie. You brought up student teachers, and I wanted to address a question we had in our private Facebook group that was about student teachers. So I'm going to pull it up right now. I apologize. I don't know if you saw it. Did you see that post
I
earlier
did
this week?
not. Although I
Okay.
haven't wasn't on yeah, I wasn't on our group very much this weekend.
So this is from our friend Jessica Walker. She's super active in our private Facebook group. For those of you who are listening, if you're not a part of the Teach Better Team private Facebook group, it's at teachbettergroup.com. Obviously, it's a free Facebook group. People just like post their questions. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
about things that are related to Teach Better specifically. Sometimes it's just more open-ended, looking for a community to share resources or ideas. This one has a blending of both of those. It is specific to the grid method, but it's actually really specific to student teachers just being
Okay.
in classrooms. So Jessica says, how do you handle using the grid method and having an intern? I do very little whole group teaching. I used to create videos in small groups when I do most of my teaching. My lesson plan is my grid, but it's not satisfying my intern's requirements. Any suggestions for those who do this? And Katie, you and I have taken on millions of student teachers, and we've had a lot of conversations about this. So tell me what your initial thoughts are.
So that's super interesting because I literally have a student teacher like right now. And so for her to like take over, she's doing all the mini lessons and she's thinking about everything outside of the work time. So we also have a grid. It's already, it was already ready to go because I had created it before she joined me in January. And so some of the things that I had her do, especially as like kind of going forward, is I was like, look at all of the lessons with a grid. Is there anything that you want to change or tweak? And this is her first one. So at this point, she was like, no, I just kind of want to see it. But she's doing all the mini lessons. She's doing all conferencing. She's doing, we haven't gotten to an assessment yet, but she'll be the one that will be looking at that. So I created the overall structure of the grid, but then she took over the day to day. And so we actually just had a conversation on Friday. She's got a professor that she has to have come in and observe her. And she said, what should I have them observe? Because we're doing the grid. And so I gave her a bunch of ideas. And one was, maybe do you like take a day off the grid and do something like a review day, or you do kind of an interactive activity just to kind of make sure everyone's where they need to be in the grid. But I also said, when you're in the grid, pick a day that they're in conferencing, or pick a day that they're going to be on the assessment so that your professor can see that. So I think there's tons of ways, because really they are working on the grid, but they're not working on it the second they walk in the door and the second they walk out. There's a little bit of flexibility.
Yeah, I really struggle with this. And I want to clarify, when you and I have taken interns, the universities that we've worked with really have always been open-minded, which I really
Absolutely.
appreciate. But I will say there is definitely a disconnect here. And this is something that I really struggled with when I was comparing the university college experience to the day in, day out being a classroom teacher. And it was
Yep.
something that I really found myself putting my foot down on when speaking with those in academia, to say, I know that this is good. You have to come see it because I can't explain it. Because initially, I'd have a student teacher that would come into my classroom and say, this doesn't fit the PDF Word doc that I have to include my lesson plan in. So therefore, I can't do it for my observation. And sometimes, especially depending on the student teacher, I'd say, okay, let's take a day off of the grid, which by the way
Right.
is super okay. Feel free to
Yep.
take days off the grid. I used to do it all the time. People do it all
Yep.
the time. So choose to do something else. And that worked fine. But I will tell you, the grid method, the structure of how you are structuring your class hour, regardless of what you teach, is absolutely supported by best practice and the data that supports education. So as we're looking at that,
Mhm.
doing a mini lesson is absolutely beneficial for your student teacher to get involved in. I love that. Welcoming the classroom, setting the environment. A mini lesson can be 6 to 8 minutes or up to 15 minutes of your
Right.
learning period, which you can do a whole lot with. Then
Yep.
transitioning into work time with the grid method, you're modeling for your university professor that students are going to be able to work at their learning level and only progress when mastery is met. That still has aligned targets. It's right on your grid. That still has aligned objectives working towards an assessment goal. All these things are really, really well modeled and apparent in the work that you're doing.
Right.
It just may not fit perfectly in that Word doc, which I
Mhm.
feel like was the only element I needed to model for my student teachers, was like how to take that information and fit it like square peg round hole on this Word document. It
Mhm.
absolutely aligned to how the university wanted educators to be teaching. It just was this issue of like transferring the knowledge from a new progressive system that met students' needs into this like Word document file is really where the struggle was. Because
Right.
then at the very end, you're talking about goal setting and reflection, you're modeling conferencing, you're doing individual work with students or in small groups. I mean, the university professor is going to see a ton of good
Mhm.
examples of ways that that student teacher is absolutely reaching success in their internship. I think it's so interesting when this stuff comes up. There's a lot of different approaches, but sometimes, and I don't say this often, so I really want to like make sure I say this with intentionality. Like sometimes it's pushing back on the university that they
Mhm.
really need to trust that these things are happening, even if it doesn't fit in like the boxes. I don't know. Does that make sense?
No, I think it totally does, and I think as the cooperating teacher, I think it's okay for you to kinda say, like, they
Mhm.
are gonna make your benchmarks, but you're gonna have to see it, because sometimes what's presented on paper isn't totally it's hard to visualize, so, especially when they have to turn in their lesson plan early and get feedback, I feel like that's where it always adds a little bit of pressure, because it's like, well, it's not meeting all the requirements, but it is, just come and see it, because even though, this paper document doesn't meet what you think, when you come in, you're going to see a ton of stuff. And that's what I think is important. for, for our student teachers to see and to experience, and then to be able to pass that on to their college professors.
Well, and I love that somebody just commented, good teaching doesn't always fit in a box. And I
Yeah.
agree. It doesn't fit in a box when the lesson plan design was created in 1988 and it's supposed to model what a classroom looks like in 2022. I'm not saying that listing targets and listing objectives isn't appropriate, but you can do that with the grid method very
Absolutely.
easily, probably more effectively than any other, structure or framework, because the only difference is you might be listing a few different targets and a few different objectives based on where the students are working, because I can in any moment in time tell you exactly what all 34 students are doing in a classroom of 34, but they might have minor adjustments. It doesn't mean that there's like 34 targets being met. No, there's probably
Right.
only like 2 that we're focusing on that day depending on the range of student work, but I can tell you exactly who those students are. And that in and of itself is really strong. I know, Katie, in here, somebody was commenting that they focused a lot on conferencing with their student teacher. I just like want to acknowledge what a skill to be able to teach a student teacher to really focus on feedback. Gosh, what a progressive approach to that learning.
And balancing it. That was something my student teacher last week really, she was like, "We had 8 kids that were ready to conference." And I was like, "Yeah, and how did that go?" It's like, because that's a real thing. That's not something you're gonna learn in a textbook. It's when you have 8 kids standing around you ready to conference, like, how do you tackle that management? So, yeah, I think it's, and Ray, you and I are lucky enough, we are in town, like, we live in a town with a college that is excited about education, that's an education college. Yeah, I mean, there's 2 of them, so it's nice that we have that flexibility, and I know not everybody does. But yeah, I would totally encourage you to kind of work with your student teacher to see what are the things they have to hit and what does the grid method offer, because I think there's some ways that even the way you word it can
Yeah.
hit the targets, but it's still authentic teaching and it's still real. And I know Andrea is dropping in the comments too, just because it's like perfect on paper doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect in person. And oh man, have we not all experienced that?
Well, how many times have you written? And I literally vividly remember terrible lesson plans that I wrote for college that was like, I'll begin with a mini lesson, then I'm going to hand out a worksheet to all students, and I'm going to differentiate because on one of them, the font's going to be bigger, and on another, I'm going to cross out the odd numbers. And like, then they're going to work on this, and then we're going to come together, and then we're going to do an exit slip. And like on paper, okay, fine. But like, in zero way was that better than what I had planned, where all 34
Mhm.
students are going to be working towards their skill set in small groups or on their own. They're going to have conferencing, dynamic feedback. Like it's zero comparison. There's
No, and I always love when you're like, you even now, like there's times where I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this fun activity, and we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this, and then it's gonna be wrapped up at the end. And then like that's the time where the fire drill goes off, or there's like something that happens in the hallway. And then it's like, okay, well, I already missed my mini lesson. I already missed, like there's so many things I feel like that interfere like in the real world of teaching in schools, or a kid has a bloody nose, or a kid like just all the things. It's just like comical when you think about like the perfect paper lesson versus the reality.
Well, and we haven't even discussed like the human element of this, where if you have the perfect lesson plan, that 15 out of the 20 students you have are bored. So they're goofing off or on their phone
Yeah,
or breaking pencils or like anything in the back. And yet, when you use a mastery framework like the grid method or whatever, friends, like we're
yeah,
not trying to
yeah,
preach like this thing on you, but like the students are literally working on their personalized stuff. Like they're not goofing off because you're not requiring them to sit and listen, but they're
right,
actually engaged in their own learning. They don't need to poke each other with sharp pencils or goof
right,
off because like they know what they're supposed to be working on.
right. I literally on Friday had a kid walk up. Now we had done the grid method for the whole lesson. He walked up, he goes, "Hey, I just want to let you know, like, I've already learned all of this." And I was like, "Super, you're gonna be done with this real fast then." And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll be coming up with like another level for him to get to. But it's like that's okay, like that's the fun and the real part of teaching. And that's why we went into education. If it was so like easy and simple, then I think we would as educators be kind of bored too. So
Well, anyway, shout out to Jessica who posted her
Yeah.
question in our private Facebook group. We always love answering your questions. Honestly, there's been like 5 or 6 that I haven't gotten to yet, but if you guys are looking for answers, a brainstorm partner, obviously we do love to talk about it on the show or just privately, just direct message us. We'd love to help. But I will say, like, that was a funny one because I knew that you had a student teacher right now. And obviously, we've juggled and discussed student teachers 100 times. So, my answer would be to absolutely be flexible, absolutely do what you need to do to best serve your students and your student teacher. But if it is coming down purely to fitting your 2022 teaching practices into a Word doc, push back a little bit only so that you can truly model what that Word doc is striving to accomplish through a more progressive lens. So that's
Absolutely.
my soapbox. I know we are out of time here, Katie. We didn't even get to preview the week, so I think we should do that super duper fast so that people know what this week's going to look like. But then also we all, of course, are sending out an email to our Teach Better network. If you are not a part of our email list, please direct message me your email and I can add you. But we are going to send out a list for the week. So that way you can plan which days you might choose to pop in a daily drop-in. So should we get into our upcoming this week stuff?
Yep, do it.
Here we go. All right, real quick, upcoming this week on Daily Drop-In. And then, of course, you can connect with these people when you get an email from us here in just about a half an hour to preview what our week is going to look like. Tomorrow, we have a really cool guest joining us. His, oh my gosh, I know I'm going to butcher his name. I met him once on a Zoom call. It's like Darius, but there's a Z in it. And so I'm super excited to have him give me a right pronunciation of his work. Here's what I want to give a shout out for. He is a photographer. He's a student. I want to say he either just graduated college or might still be in the midst of learning. But he is somebody who was a student of our Speakers Network friend, PJ Capozzi. And he has had quite an upbringing as a student, an incredible battle to ensure that he reaches success. Actually, PJ Capozzi was a huge element of trying to support his dreams and work that he does. And he actually has gone through a very, very stressful year. And so when I spoke with him, his story was just out of this world. I knew we needed to feature him on Daily Drop-In. So he's not necessarily an educator, but trust me, teacher to teacher, he's going to be one that you're going to want to see for sure.
I'm excited.
Be so good. On Wednesday, we have Alexa Perkins joining us. Not to geek out, but I am so excited. She is somebody I've been following on Instagram for so stinking long. And I just like secretly think she's the coolest human on the planet. So I actually am nervous about interviewing her on Wednesday. Well, we're going to see how that goes.
We're going to see you geek out. Perfect.
But honestly, like there are people that like I don't want to fangirl around because I know that I need to like be professional. But like I like my nerves. I have like butterflies in my stomach talking about it.
I'm so excited. If there's no reason other than to see Rae be nervous and giddy at, early in the morning, I think that is a perfect reason to set your alarm.
She is just so intimidating. You have to go follow her on Instagram. Like she is drop dead gorgeous and she's so fun. And I just can't even. Maybe somebody should. Is anybody available to take Wednesday Daily Drop-In? Let me know.
Nope. Sounds like you've got it. You got this.
I don't think I could do it. Thursday, Carly Spina is joining us. We love Carly. Elijah actually gave Carly a shout out earlier that her book is going to be a part of how he's spending his day. We're excited to have Carly Spina join us again. She's very active in our ambassador program and in the Teach Better community. She's actually been on the show before, and it will be really fun to highlight her again. So she'll be on Thursday, and then Brad Hughes on Friday. So very full week.
Yeah. Ooh, that's lots of good stuff coming.
Yeah, very cool. Katie, we are way far over, so we are going to head out here. But I hope you have a really good Monday.
Thanks. You and I actually have a meeting, so don't go too far.
Like a meeting right now? Like, are we 4 minutes late for a meeting?
Yes.
Nice. That's so fun. It's with Chad and Jeff, isn't it?
Yeah. So they haven't yelled at us yet. I mean, I haven't gotten any angry messages. So
I
we're good.
I don't feel like you can yell at us for being late if we're like live streaming to our network. Like I feel like it's not like I'm still in bed sleeping. Like I'm not late for a bad reason, you know?
Right, but can you just stay on it? I'm gonna go get coffee so then they don't yell at me for going. Just
Wait,
kidding.
really quick, can you preview what this meeting is about? And then we're gonna go.
The conference.
Oh, so we are about to meet about the conference, Teach Better Conference. Early bird registration ends in about a month. So if you've not registered for Teach Better Conference, it is October 14th and 15th over at teachbetterconference.com. And not a spoiler alert, but at the end of the month, we are going to start announcing our featured speakers and keynotes, and then proposals open March 1st. So I'm not saying I'm excited, but I'm kind of saying I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah.
All
I'm
right,
excited.
I'm going to click the button. We're going to go off air, and I'll meet you at our meeting. Bye, friends. Have a wonderful Monday. Please enjoy some family time. Be careful with the spa stuff that you put on your face because we don't want it to sting. Enjoy your last sip of coffee. We'll see you tomorrow.